creating some disorder here, as usual. I'm Gordy Davidson, and I wrote on my name tag, Scott was my best friend. How many of you wrote that on your name tags? Yeah, that was his magic. I mean, he had the ability to make all of us feel like we were special, and he made our lives special. And there are many, many stories we can tell about Scott. Some probably not for attribution, but I want to focus on some unique experiences I had with Scott at Olympic venues. He loved the Olympics, and he planned, as you know, he was a big planner, and he decided that we were going to go to the Salt Lake Olympics. And I told him 20 or 30 times, I can't do it, I'm working that week, I've got to do laundry. And he said, no, we're going. And he booked it, and he booked all the events that we were going to. And I got on the plane wondering, what the heck am I going to do? And I have a whole bunch of client calls I haven't returned. And we went. And Scott was the ultimate planner. And he went on the web, and he, booked all the things we were going to go see. And of course, renting a car is a big project, and getting to the venue is a big project. And we're going through the security check, and we have our bags and stuff. And some of you know I'm allergic to tree nuts, so I carry EpiPens with me, and I'm happy, just because I didn't want them to get cold or too warm, I had them all in my parka, and I had 6 of them. And that rang all the bells in the in the security system. And 2 security guards with with machine gun like armaments slung over their shoulders, pulled me aside and pulled me into a tent, and started giving a complete body search. And Scott's saying, "Come on," and I'm saying, "These are just EpiPens," and Scott's saying, "Hey, I know him. He's okay. Come on." Our event is almost happening. So we get there, and the event we drew was probably the most impactful and most fun sporting event I've ever been to. It was the women's bobsled. And the package that Scott got, we had no idea what we were going to get, and we were way too late to pick our things, so we just went. And so Scott always plans, and we said, how should we do this? So let's go to the start first, because we at least get to see everybody run for 10 seconds, and rather than. And so we watched the whole first heat, and there was a very controversial first bobsled team. I won't go into that, but there was a second bobsled team which had an African-American woman on it, Vanetta Flowers. And they went last in the first heat, and where the number 2 team were inexperienced, weren't expected to do much. And so after all that, we said, okay, now that we've seen everybody push once, let's go down. So we went to the big 180-degree curve, and I had bought one of these disposable cameras. Kodak, you get 20 shots. And I took about 20 shots of the bobsled going by, and I never got anything but a blur. And I said, let's go to the finish line. Let's just go, let's just see who wins. And so we go down, and we're going down the catwalk, and suddenly we're joined by 50 or 60 black folks. And there aren't too many black folks at the Winter Olympics. And I said, something's happening here. And they were all fans of Vanetta Flowers, who was a track star at Alabama and had tried out for the Olympic track team and didn't make it. Her husband convinced her, they both tried out for bobsled. He pulled a muscle and didn't qualify, but she got the spot. So we're going down with all of her fans. We get to the bottom, and the Germans, who have the first and second times, have already ascended the podium. They're ready to get their medals. And so there's still 10 or so teams ready to go, coming on it. They're high-fiving each other and just yakking it up. And suddenly the last sled goes, and it's the one with Vanetta in, and she's the brake woman, but that means the pushing person, right? The brakes don't matter at the end. So suddenly the Germans look up at the split times and say, "Oh," and then, "Ooh." And we're looking and say, "Hey, they've got the fastest time so far," and they finished with the fastest time, and Vanetta pulls up right in front of us, right there, and I've got my camera. And I said, "I've got the cover of Sports Illustrated in my hands." And she jumps the fence into her mother's arms. She's next to me, and I take their picture, and I'm out of film. My moment of fame. And it was such a celebration. It was just a special moment. I thought I had never been to anything like that before, and certainly nothing anywhere near as exciting as that since. And Scott made that experience. I mean, he didn't know, but he knew, he knew where the action was, and he always, was the leader and to try new adventures. And we had a lot of fun there, and he convinced me to go to Whistler, Vancouver, in 2010, and I have my souvenir hat. Laird's wearing it out of self-defense at the moment. But we had similar exciting adventures there, and with Lisa and Melanie, we're there for part of it. And we saw Lindsey Vonn, of course, in a big event, but we saw a couple of other amazing events. We saw a men's 4x10 relay, and we were right there at the finish line. And I don't remember what country they were from, but this guy was way out in front. I mean, he was, you could barely see the people who were trailing him. And we were right there at the beginning of the finish line, and he took the wrong turn. He took the turn to go again instead of to go to the finish line. And everybody's screaming at him, and he suddenly looks around and he just falls down because everybody then finishes. So the agony of defeat. We saw some of that, but had a lot of fun. And there was another one where there was a women's cross country solo, not a relay, and a Slovenian woman in a practice run had gone off the tracks and fallen down into a ravine, broke 4 ribs. The next day she competed and she finished with a bronze medal. And I looked at the video of it last night. He was just giving it all, but immediately had to be rushed to the hospital. But we saw just some incredible moments of this experiencing life. I mean, Scott went to where it's happening and dragged me along, and all of us along. And he dragged us to Whistler many times. I'm going to let Dennis talk about our Whistler experiences. And Wendy, where's Wendy? Wendy just hot off, just landed at SFO 30 minutes ago, and suffice it to say that Scott planned all of these events for us every year. In fact, I think he has Wendy booked for 7 more times this year. Can we go?
Yes,
okay.
Alan's going.
Yeah.
Alan's going.
But those were all fun experiences, and all I'll say about this is every time, Wendy made me a better skier every time that I went. But and Scott, so here's all I'm going to say about this, Dennis. I hope this is not stealing any of your thunder. Wendy was very good about riding up with each of us in the lifts and giving us airtime, because Scott always wanted to sit next to her. And so when we go downhill, Scott always wanted to be right on Wendy's tail, right? I mean, no matter where we start, he had to follow Wendy. And Dennis and I were 2 or 3 hills behind, saying, which way did they go? And so we had a hard time catching up. One day, Wendy had to leave early, and so we were left on our own. And she said, "You know how to get down the hill, right?" And I said, "Right." And so we start going down, and Scott doesn't. He's been there 30, 40, 50 times. He has no idea how to go down to the lodge, because he's always following Wendy. And so, but that's one thing I had to know because we lost sight of them, and Dennis and I had to get there before dark. So, that's just a hint of some of the fun that Scott created for us. And if Dennis leaves anything out, I'll be happy to one-on-ones to tell you some of the other incredible stories we had. I just wanted to finish with one thing, which is, I don't know how many of you have seen this before. This appeared in the Recorder, the local area legal newspaper. And it's about Scott's cliffhanger when he was climbing Mont Blanc and he fell into a crevasse and he could see China, as he says in this interview. I won't read the whole thing, but you all ought to because it's really interesting. But it does sum it up for Scott, and his spirit of adventure and why he took on challenges and why he took us so long with him. And he says, the reason I do it is because you come back down, you go back to work, you look at your partners, your clients, and you've got a twinkle in your eye. Because you know you've done something they haven't. And that sums it up. So I'm going to yield the mic to Keith Higgins, and please come up.
I'll take it.